Hey, 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 you know what day it is. What day is it? It's Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. It's Tuesday Tea with D. Yeah, yeah. Tuesday Tea with D. 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 Hey, boo, hey. It's your girl, Detra Trueheart, your life purpose generator, purpose provoker, and your personal life coach, life strategist, here with another weekly dose of Tuesday Tea with D, right? And so, as you know, I have my tea here. This is my mango tango tea. This is an oldie but goodie, like an oldie, one of the very first teas that I got years ago, 2 years ago, when I went to Hilton Head. This is a loose tea that I steeped. It's got honey and lemon in it. And I did taste it before we pressed record, but let me just do another little taste because, I know you want to know how it is. Oh, yes. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, so here's what I want to say. It did not taste like this when I first made it. I was going to say created it. I didn't create the tea. I first made the tea, but I think like having it steep, it's actually sitting in this, my little mini thermos. If you have seen me in person, then you are very familiar with this. I hardly go anywhere without it. And so this tea right here, honey, is good. Mm-hmm. Yes, and ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Let's have conversation, right? So before we jump into our conversation around the 4-letter word that you keep ignoring, I want to bring to your attention, y'all know that we have been talking about this for we'll have a couple of announcements. So the first announcement is make sure you are on my email list. Make sure you are on my text messaging list. Why? Because May 28th, 29th, and 30th, I am doing a 3-day mini masterclass, a lunch and learn masterclass, 12 noon every single day. And it is called the You Experience. And so if you had an opportunity to, I'm talking way too fast, so I need to slow down because I'm like breathing and all the things. So if you had an opportunity to join me when I did the You Experience, I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago. I can't believe when I was putting this back together that it's been about 3 years since I've done it. I think the last time I did it was either 2021 or 2022. And we're going to spend 3 days around this conversation of reclaiming you. And so the first day, we're going to be talking about reclaiming your mind. The second day, we're going to be talking about reclaiming your time. And the third day, we're going to be talking about reclaiming your voice. And one of the things that I have found is in life, in experience, in trauma, in the ups, the downs, the ins and outs, somewhere along the way, we've lost sight of ourselves. And so I want to bring something to you that's going to reinvigorate and replenish and revive and help you to reclaim you. So make sure you are on my text community as well, on my text list, as well as part of my email list, because they're going to get first dibs on registering for this. And we're going to be live. We did this 3 years ago on my Facebook group, but I think I'm going to do this in Zoom this year. I'm not sure yet. I haven't confirmed the details, but it's either going to be via webinar, Zoom. The last resort is probably going to be my Facebook group, but I'm saying all that to say I'm giving you a heads up. The other heads up that I'm giving you is my Sit, Soak, and Seek. And I'm going to put this up even though this is the wrong date, but I want you to be mindful of it. It is going to be May 31st, 2023, same time, 6:30 to 8:30 at Impacting Love Global Ministries, the Walden Galleria on the lower level. You can enter at the PF Chains entrance in order to get access to it. And so I'm putting this here now. I did anticipate sharing this, but I want you to know because it's coming up also in 2 weeks. And so there's lots happening that I want you to know about, and I want you to make sure you are in the room. And the great part about all of those is that they're free, right? The last thing that I'm going to share really quickly is my 90-minute strategy session. And I want to make sure that I'm sharing this now so that it's here and I'm putting it out there, but make sure that if you are in a space where you really are stuck, right? I've been having conversations with women who are stuck, right? They have things that they're supposed to be doing. They have the plan, they have it written out, but they are not executing. And so if this is you and you are in a space where you are not executing, where you know that there's some things that you need to be doing, you need some clarity around how you can get unstuck, you're not even really sure why you're stuck. But this time that we can spend together can literally catapult and change how you take action and how you execute. It really is high time for you to no longer be stuck, stagnant, and stalled. Okay. Whatever it might be, whether it's what you're doing with your time, what you're doing with your energy, what you're doing with your money, whether it is taking time out to really figure out how to reclaim you. Like, what does it look like to put you back on your schedule? Maybe you have some things coming up and you want to pick my brain about some stuff around strategy, whether it's business, ministry related, or whatever. But I want to encourage you to go to trueheartspeaks.as.me/get started so that you can get started. Okay. So let's jump into this conversation. The 4-letter word that you keep ignoring, and that 4-letter word is REST. REST. And it is rest. Why am I talking to you about rest? Because for one, I'm continuing the conversation from yesterday when every Monday, I do a Monday morning walk talk in my free private Facebook group, the iSpeaklife Society. If you are not a member, you need to be in there. And it really came from over the weekend where I took some time to rest. I needed the rest. I rested for 2 days, and not knowing how much rest I really needed. And so we talked yesterday around like, what does rest look like for you? But today, in addition to talking about what does rest look like for you, I really want to talk about this 4-letter word that you keep ignoring. And why do I say it's the 4-letter word that you keep ignoring? I say it's the 4-letter word that you keep ignoring because you think that you have to earn rest. You think that you have to wait to a particular time to rest or for a particular time to rest. You think that like rest is not for you, right? Like you haven't earned it enough or you haven't done enough. And so I really think it is important for you to understand that in the same way that you pour out, you really need to take time out to rest, right? You really need to take time out to rest. You really need to take time out to rest. I'm going to say it one more time for the people in the back. You really need to take time out for rest. The other thing that you need to do is you need to decide what that looks like for you. Rest looks different for everyone. Rest looks different simply because, and it's funny because I asked a question on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, and I got lots of different answers, right? For some people, rest look like sleeping. For some people, rest look like doing nothing. For some people, rest look like no obligations, no explanation, nobody calling their names or anything like that. Rest look like watching a TV show on Do Not Disturb so that they, you don't have the text messages or the notifications coming up disrupting and distracting you from your good old TV show. I know what that's like, right? And so rest looks different. Like for some people, rest was quiet time. It was praying. It was taking baths. It was like a mani-pedi, like self-care type thing. And so what I noticed from that is that literally rest is different for everyone. And so you need to decide what that looks like for you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull this up. I want to pull this up just so I can look at some of the other answers around what people shared around rest, because I really want you all to see what the people were saying. And so for some, one person said, it looks like setting an alarm every day at 1 o'clock to take a daily nap before she gets her son off the bus. For someone else, it looks like PTO, outdoor, sunshine, unplugged or aimless scrolling, water, good food, laughter, sleep, quiet time, worship. Another person said not knowing or caring where my phone is. Honey, can we talk about not carrying this phone with us and being inaccessible to all the people at a particular time? Don't call me, and even if you are, I don't want to know, right? The one person said phone on D&D with a good show on the television. One person said sleep. Another person said time blocking, lying on the couch, watching the clouds, reading, journaling, execution of strong boundaries, avoiding certain people, places, and things when needed, ordering groceries for delivery instead of pickup. Do you see where I'm going with this? I could literally keep going on because there were more people who shared. One person said watching the children play, and I replied, there's something definitely peaceful about watching children play until you're invited to play with them, right? Until child, especially if it's boys, child, they want to do all the ninja, all the jumping, all the flipping, all the things, right? But again, the 4-letter word that you're ignoring. And so I really want you to take some time to look at what rest looks like for you. Rest for me really does look like do nothing days. Rest for me looks like reading. Rest for me looks like it's getting nice out. And so my lawn person was here and was asking me, are you getting ready to pull your hammock out and pull all of your things out? And I was like, you already know, because I love a good, nice day in my hammock, reading and napping and reading. Because honey, after a certain amount of pages, child, them eyes come into agreement. And literally I done took me a nap and then I wake up and read a little bit more. Or just sitting, at my table with under the umbrella with my feet up, whether it's tea or water or a glass of wine, like whatever it might be, honey, that's rest for me. Rest for me is not having my name called mom, ma, or bruh, right? Mommy, all the moms, right? Whatever it is, however he calls my name, rest means don't call me, I'll call you, and I'm probably not going to call you because I'm chilling right now. But what does rest look like for you? Does it look like, the beach? Does it look like water? Does it look like, being in a space where you're uninterrupted? Does it look like journaling, reading? What does it look like? Somebody says quiet time, no kids, no devices, no work. Someone says my 4 days off, doing nothing next week. What does rest look like for you? And the question is, are you ignoring it? Do you think that it is not your portion? Do you think that it is something that you have to wait for a specific time in order to do? Can I remind you really quickly that God ordained rest? He rested on the 7th day from the work that he did for the first 6 days of creating, right, the universe, creating earth. And if he thought it was needful to rest, why don't you? I think sometimes life causes us to think that rest works more against us than for us, because we don't know what it's like to sit down for longer than a minute. We don't know what it's like to shut down until our bodies shut down. We don't know what it's like to decide that enough is enough today. I had a coaching call not too long ago. And one of the things that I always hear from the women that I'm working with, specifically when they're working beyond the time that they're supposed to be working, is literally like, I feel like I need to do more. And my question was, what happens if, and this was a question that I posed to her. And I said, what happens if you're working, but let's just say someone close to you, a daughter, a son, a parent, your spouse gets sick. And in getting sick, you have to take care of them. Whatever you're doing when 5 o'clock hits is null and void, because the responsibility and the time and the energy that you have to give to taking care of or meeting the need or going to tend to that specific person now takes precedence. I said, you now need to do that for you. And many of you need to do that for you. The coach is kicking in and coaching. You need to decide, like, you can't say, oh, well, honey, that work gonna be there. Decide that when it gets a certain time, that if you're not done, you're gonna pick it up tomorrow. Unless if there's a deadline for, let's just say, a grant that you're writing or a deadline for a project that you're working on, but everything can't be a deadline. That means that like you got a whole lot going on. Like at some point you have to decide that I'm off. You can't be on all the time. You can't ignore rest. You can't ignore. And here's the other part is, if you keep ignoring rest, your body will demand rest. And then it'll cause you to be out longer, maybe for 4 days when you only maybe needed 2. But you have to keep in mind that whatever it is that you're doing to pour out, you need to make sure that you are allowing yourself time and space for it to be poured back into. I use the example all the time of water bottles. If you can see this water bottle and you see it's here and there's this much here, many times we will use all of this, right? And then we'll get to the end of it. And then the problem is we'll end up filling it back up here as opposed to here, meaning that you have not filled yourself back up to the full, which means you're still tired. You're still exhausted. Your body is not operating at 100%. And sometimes we don't know what we need in order to fully fill our bodies up. So I'll give you an example. So over the weekend, it was Mother's Day weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all of the moms. And Saturday, my son had an activity, and then I participated in a training with my coach. And then after that, I laid on the couch and I was tired. I had to wake up early that morning because we do family prayer on Saturdays, and that was my Saturday to do prayer. And so from prayer to the activity to the training, by the time I got home and got settled, it was like 2:00. I was done for the day. I was still kind of vacillating between what I wanted to do for Mother's Day when I knew I really didn't want to do anything. And I finally decided I wasn't going to do anything. I sent a text message to my pastor and the leaders of my church. We have a text that we use. And I said, I'm not going to be in. And I kind of had this personal conversation with myself. And I said, well, what do you want to do? Like, I know what the people want you to do, and I know what the expectation is, but what do you want to do today? Like, what do you really need? And I really needed to stay home, and I did. And so for some of you, I want you to start becoming a little bit more aware of what you need in these spaces that you're in, as opposed to what people want and expect of you. Because a lot of times what people want and expect of you, you may not have capacity for. And I really didn't have capacity over this weekend. I really, as a mom, wanted to spend my day doing nothing. I wanted no interruptions. I did not want to get dressed. I did not want to get in the shower. I did not want to put clothes on. Even if it was just for a moment, I didn't want to do any of that. And I didn't. I stayed home. And so I want you to think about in what ways you have been ignoring that 4-letter word called rest. I want you to think about in what ways have you not prioritized rest in your own life. And here's the thing, we don't always have to, because our goal is kind of like, I need a whole week. You may not have a whole week, but what do you have and how can you maximize it? What can you do and how can you maximize it? How can you make space for yourself and advocate for yourself and stand up for yourself in a way where maybe people may not get it, they may not understand it, they may even feel some kind of way about it, but you stand your ground to do what's necessary for you. Everybody is not going to always get it, but I think it's important for you to know what you need to show up as the highest and best version of who God created you to be. And I do know that you can't be everything that God created you to be while you're trying to be everything for everybody else. It's just not possible. And so while we're having this conversation this week around rest, I want you to create some time for you this week. I want you waiting until the end of the month and trying to schedule it in. Where can you find time to rest this week? Where can you find time to rest this week? Where have you been ignoring it? Where can you just decide you're not going? Where can you send a text message and just say, you know what, I'm not coming. I'm not coming. I'm not going to be there this week. And here's the thing, doing it without explanation. Everybody doesn't need an explanation. And when you give the explanation, it'll be in due time when you want to give it, but you don't have to give an explanation for deciding that your body needs something in order for you to operate at your highest and best self. So that's today's conversation. I want you to stop ignoring that 4-letter word, rest. I want you to start prioritizing rest. I want you to start, and we talked about this yesterday on the Monday Morning Walk Talk, around not only teaching people how to treat you, but really teaching people how to respect boundaries and respect what it is that you're doing, even when they don't like it. It's going to be uncomfortable when you start enforcing boundaries that you're creating with people who you never created boundaries with. Child, it's going to be an uproar. There's going to be some issues, but the reality is that the peace on the other side of it, the joy that comes on the other side of it, the stillness, the fulfillment that comes on the other side of it is so much more than the people and what they got to say. So I really want you to stop ignoring this word, rest. What does rest look like for me? And how can I incorporate it on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis? How am I making time and space for me to rest? Not when I need rest, but so that I'm able to show up as my highest and best version of myself. Right? We don't want to always be resting because we need to rest. We want to rest because it's required for who we need to be on the other side of rest. And so it's not something that's earned, it's something that's required. Rest is required for you. It is required. It is not an afterthought. It is not something you second guess. It is not something that you got to ask for permission for. It is something that is required for you to show up as your highest and best self, the self that God created you to show up as, right? If God has given you an assignment, it is important for you to be rested, to be in your right mind, to make sure that your body is at 100%, to make sure that you're doing your part to show up in a way that is pleasing not only to him, but also it allows you to be able to not feel like you're shortchanging not only yourself, but those who you are connected with, right? It's one thing when you show up and you know you're not operating at 100% and you're like, man, like I feel like I could give more, but I can't because I'm tired. I'm taking on more than I should be taking on. And so you really want to be making sure that you are resting at the level of that you pour out, that you're resting at the level, right, that is required of you to show up. And that changes. Oh, goodness. I'm going to stop here, but that changes, right? And so the level of rest that you might need on one level might be totally different on on another level because more is required of you. Too much is given, much is required. And so you might be in a space where the reason why you might be struggling, thank you, Holy Spirit, is simply because the amount of rest that you think you need at this level, it more is required for what you're pouring out and what you're giving out. And so don't get so caught up in thinking like, well, I've been doing this for years. You have, but this new season that you're stepping into, this new level that you're on, this new dimension that God has called you to, it requires more rest. It requires more focus. It requires more execution. It requires you to pull away a little bit more. It requires more study. It requires more. And so you can't be out doing all the things that you used to do because what you're called to do requires more. And not only does it require more of you, it requires more rest. Okay? All right. So I hope this was good tea for you. It was good for me. This weekend was a reminder that I still have to be, even though I teach it and even though it's something that's a part of my lifestyle, I still have to make it a point to check in with myself to make sure that I am getting the necessary rest to be who I'm called to be at each level and at each season of my life. Right. So I'm going to take a sip of this tea right here. Child, this is good. I wish we could be in a room and I could share my tea with you. And actually, when we meet in December for iSpeaklife Live, we do a tea time with D. So I bring in like some of my favorite teas, and I ask, have we do honey and lemon, and so the ladies get a chance to try tea, especially the ladies who are coffee drinkers. It's tea time, so they get a chance to really try tea, and so it's so exciting. And so if you have not registered, when tickets open up in another like couple of months or so, I really want you to be in the room, even just for the experiences like that with tea time with D. Like it's our Friday night session, and we get together and we do sweets, and we just have a good time, honey. And so I want you to be in the room. So with that being said, make sure that you are locked in for Sit, Soak, and Seek on May 31st. Make sure you are locked in on my email list and my text messaging list. I'm going to put this up again just so that you can see it. Go to 833-447-0492. Type in the word "hey" to that number so that you're on the list, so that you can get first dibs to register for the U experience, which will be, and it's funny because all of this is happening that last week of May. So the 28th, 29th, and the 30th, you're going to be doing the U experience. And then on the 31st, if you're local or if you want to drive or fly in, you can be with us on Friday night from 6:30 to 8:30 for the Sit, Soak, and Seek, our personal prayer and worship experience. And so we're doing this again. It was really good the first time. And so I'm feeling like God wants me to do this on a quarterly basis. And it just really gives people an opportunity, specifically those of you who are pastors, who are leaders, who are worshipers, who are psalmists, who are musicians. It gives you an opportunity to get into the presence of God, and you don't have to worry about being on. Nobody's going to call you up for a solo. Nobody's going to call you out to play anything. We have prophetic music playing in the background, and it literally is 2 hours of you in the presence of God. And sometimes at home we can do that. But if you're like me, sometimes you need to be somewhere else where you're not distracted by everything and everybody. You just literally, the focus is on you. I really want you to join us for Sit, Soak, and Seek. And so I'll have more information about that next week. But I really wanted to share that because I want you to put it on your calendar along with the You experience. I'll have that next week to share with you as well. But if you're on my email list, when the information goes out, you might get it before next Tuesday. What else is happening? Make sure that you schedule your 90-minute strategy session. If you've been called to work with me, and if you've been feeling the nudge to get into my space, I really want to encourage you to invest in the Get Unstuck and Get Started 90-minute strategy session. Go to trueheartspeaks.as.me/get started. trueheartspeaks.as.me/get started in order to book your session with me. I only have limited spaces available for those each month because of my capacity and what I'm already doing with my paid communities. And so if you want to get in those spaces, then I want to encourage you to do that ASAP before the time and the space books up. Okay. So I hope that you enjoyed today's tea. I want you to make sure that you comment below. Let me know like what you do to rest. Like, what does rest look like for you? I want to know if there are ways that maybe you can, if you think about ways that you might be ignoring rest, right? Well, maybe like rest is that 4-letter word that you kind of like stay away from. I want you to make sure that you're liking the video. Make sure you are subscribing to the YouTube channel. And obviously, what am I going to tell you? What's the very last thing that I'm asking you to do? I want you to share this with 5 people. Who are the 5 people you know who really need today's message around rest? Like, you already know in your mind, like, boo, like you need to watch this. Like, if you're not going to listen to me, listen to Coach D. Okay. And with that being said, I will see you next time and next week on Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D. Tuesday Tea with D.